The alarm bells are ringing again for the Indiana Fever. And this time, the concerns are even harder to ignore. Saturday night's loss at Gamebridge Fieldhouse wasn't simply a bad game. It wasn't one of those nights where shots refused to fall and a team moved on. What unfolded was a complete breakdown across multiple levels of the organization, resulting in a stunning 100-84 defeat against the Portland Fire, an expansion franchise still finding its footing in the league. Every issue that has followed the Fever this season seemed to collide in one game. The offense stalled. The defense collapsed in the paint. Rotation decisions raised eyebrows. Questions surrounding player health and communication resurfaced. By the final buzzer, Indiana sat 4-4, and the concerns surrounding this team looked more serious than ever. Let's start with a player at the center of every Fever conversation, Caitlin Clark. Clark played just 21 minutes and 44 seconds, finishing with 6 points on 1 of 7 shooting. She missed both of her three-point attempts, posted a -8 rating, and eventually fouled out. On its own, that stat line would be disappointing, but viewed alongside her recent performances, it becomes part of a troubling trend. Across her last 2 games, Clark has shot just 4 for 19 from the field. Her three-point shooting, which had been one of her biggest strengths earlier this season, has suddenly disappeared. What once looked like a temporary slump is now becoming a pattern that deserves attention. Adding to the concern is the ongoing conversation surrounding Clark's health. Earlier this season, she missed a game because of back stiffness, an absence that generated controversy after league reporting requirements were not properly followed. Since then, Clark has acknowledged that her back is something that can flare up unexpectedly. That context matters. When a player's minutes begin decreasing while her efficiency drops at the same time, questions naturally follow. Is the coaching staff managing a lingering physical issue? Is there something happening behind the scenes that hasn't been fully communicated? Those questions remain unanswered. What makes the situation even more frustrating is the rotation management during Saturday's loss. Clark was pulled from the game early in the first quarter and spent significant portions of the night on the bench. For a player already struggling to regain rhythm, the decision was difficult to understand. Shooter confidence often comes from continuity. Players work through slumps by staying involved, finding touches, making reads, and remaining connected to the flow of the game. Interrupting that process can make it even harder to rediscover momentum. Instead, Clark found herself battling foul trouble, struggling to establish any rhythm, and ultimately fouling out before the game's decisive stretch. When your franchise cornerstone spends the most important minutes of a 16-point loss watching from the sidelines, questions are inevitable, and Fever fans are asking plenty of them. Social media erupted throughout the game. Criticism of head coach Stephanie White intensified as frustration boiled over among a fan base that entered the season expecting major progress. Perhaps the most telling sign of fan dissatisfaction is that some supporters are now looking back at previous coaching staffs more favorably than they once did. Whether fair or not, that's usually a sign that confidence in the current direction is beginning to erode. The problems weren't limited to the offense. Indiana's defense suffered one of its worst performances of the season. The Portland Fire scored 52 points in the paint. 52. For a team built around the defensive presence of Aaliyah Boston, that number is alarming. Boston finished with a -14 rating, the lowest mark among Fever starters. But the issue extends beyond one player. Defensive schemes, rotations, and adjustments are ultimately coaching responsibilities. When opponents repeatedly attack the same areas without resistance, the focus naturally shifts toward system design. Portland consistently found opportunities near the rim, exposing gaps in Indiana's interior defense throughout the night. The most surprising performance came from Megan Gustafson. Gustafson finished with 22 points while shooting an incredible 88% from the field. Credit belongs to her for capitalizing on opportunities, but allowing any player to score that efficiently should raise major concerns. Time after time, Indiana failed to contest effectively, failed to disrupt passing lanes, and failed to adjust as Gustafson gained confidence. When opposing players begin looking unstoppable, the problem usually extends beyond individual matchups. It becomes a structural issue. And right now, the Fever have several structural issues demanding immediate attention. After opening the season 3-1, Indiana has now lost 4 of its last 5 games. The offensive consistency has vanished. Defensive lapses continue appearing. Rotation decisions remain heavily scrutinized. Most importantly, uncertainty surrounding Clark's health continues hovering over every discussion. If her back is affecting her shooting mechanics, movement, or overall effectiveness, transparency becomes essential. The organization has already faced criticism regarding injury, reporting earlier this season, making clear communication even more important moving forward. The schedule won't get any easier. The margin for error is shrinking with every game, and the Fever cannot afford to let these problems linger much longer. The biggest question facing Indiana isn't whether talent exists on this roster. It does. The question is whether the organization can identify and correct the issues holding that talent back before the season slips away. At 4-4, there is still time to turn things around. But after Saturday night's performance, the clock is clearly ticking.